Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're doing all right. I don't know how it is there. It's nice and rainy here today, which is in southern Arizona is a real treat. It's kind of more of the same if you live in someplace like Seattle. But anyway, here's what we're going to do. Linear equations are a sticking point for many students, and it can't be retaught in the same way because students never really understand if they didn't get it initially. So we got to approach some of these concepts in a way that challenges the information that you understand. So that's what we're going to do in this problem right here. So check this out. It says we have a function f of x and it's linear, and it contains a solution f of negative 3 equals 7. And it has a slope of negative 2. All right. Then we have 5 questions to answer. It says, given that f of a equals 5, find the value of a. Oh, then what's the equation for f of x? Oh, boy. And then list the quadrants through which f of x doesn't pass. What is the x-intercept of f of x? And then another function, g of x, is perpendicular to f of x, and it passes through the point 6, negative 9. What is the equation of g of x? This can seem overwhelming. Oh, my gosh. But these kinds of problems are written to be approachable if you do it one little thing at a time. So I can't answer number 5 before I get to number 1, right? And I can't answer number 2 unless I get to number 1. So let's take a look at number 1 and start with what we know. So here's the information that we were given. The function is linear, contains the solution negative 3, 7. It has a slope of negative 2. So first question says, given that f of a equals 5, find the value of a. Man, I don't even know where to begin right away. So let's start off with what we know. Here's what we know first of all. We know that the equation, the function itself, f of x, is linear. And it has a slope of negative 2. See right there? It has a slope of negative 2. So because it's linear, it's going to be, y equals mx plus b. Y is the same as f of x, remember? Because y is the output when x is the input. And that's what f of x means. It means y is a function of x. So we also know... So we know this. We know it's going to be mx plus b because it says it's linear. Now, we also know that we can find the slope with the formula, right? y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. And we also know the slope equals negative 2, as it tells us. So when you're doing these kinds of problems, you're not sure if this is how you start. And this isn't a step, and this isn't a step. We're just starting with what we know or manipulating it, right? So that's what this kind of question is supposed to get you to do. It's supposed to get you to go, oh man, I'm not really sure what to do, but I do know this. So let's explore a little bit. All right, now, here's the leap of faith. This is the part that's a little bit tricky. You see, this is x. And this is y. So we have a coordinate, negative 3, 7. Ooh, we also have a coordinate, a5. Remember, this is the input, that's the output. This is the x-coordinate. Whatever's in the parentheses is the input, that's the x-coordinate. This is the output, the y-coordinate. So we can plug these values in right here. So we can do 7 minus 5, negative 3 minus a. Do you see? Now we have an equation. We know what this is equal to. It's equal to negative 2. This is the slope formula. We can solve this for negative a. Now, it's tricky to solve for negative a because a is in the denominator of this fraction. Whenever that's the case, what you want to do is you have to get that denominator, you have to get that variable out of the denominator. You have to get that unknown value out of the denominator. This is division. This is 2, 7 minus 5, famously known as 2, right? This is 2 divided by negative 3 minus a. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by negative 3 minus a. Now, typically, when we do this, like these sides over here will cancel. They'll reduce. So make 1. And this is just going to be 2. So it's going to be something over here equals 2. Typically, we would go ahead and distribute this negative 2. But here, I'm not going to because this is 2, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and divide. I'm going to divide instead of distribute because that's easier. Now, you could distribute, and you're going to get the same exact answer. Doesn't really matter, right? All right, so now all I got to do is add 3 to both sides, which gives me 2, and then divide both sides by negative 1. So a equals negative 2. Man, how was that? So here, let's refresh what we did. We knew it was linear, so it was y equals mx plus b. We knew the slope was equal to negative 2, so we took the slope formula, set it equal to negative 2. We also knew that when x is negative 3, y is 7, so we had the coordinate negative 3 comma 7. We also had the coordinate a comma 5. So we just plugged everything in and solved it. So here's my question for you. How difficult was this? On a scale of 1 to 3, 1 super easy, 3 super hard. Where was this for you? Think about that. Now, when you're done thinking about how difficult it was, my next two questions is, what about this made it difficult? Like, forget about all the steps that we did right here. When you were just reading number one and reading the information, what was it about this that made it difficult? And why was that difficult? Those are different questions. These are things you have to be able to answer for yourself if you want to be a good student, not just in math, in anything. Being able to analyze your own thinking, man, really important. So what clues were here the whole time? What clues were here the whole time that you did not make use of? That's really the question. That's the takeaway. What were the clues that were here in the whole problem that you did not recognize? That had you recognized, this would have been an easy problem. Man, and how can you learn from that in the future? How can you be better at finding those clues? All right. So now, number one's done, right? We've got that. Now, number two said, what is the equation for f of x? Well, first of all, once again, we know it's linear, and we know the slope is negative 2. So we're going to write f of x equals negative 2x plus b. Now, we have to figure out what the y-intercept is right here. There's a couple ways you can do that. I prefer to just plug the values in that we know, plug in an x and a y. Now, there's a point slope formula. I don't really like using that, but this is the easiest way. So you can plug 7 in here because this is the same as y. It says when x is negative 3, so when x is negative 3, I'll put negative 3 there, then the whole function equals 7. So I'm going to plug those things in, you see? This right here, f of negative 3. So this is x, and that's y. So I plugged it in, x and y. Now you got to do is solve it, right? So 1, b is 1. Now make sure. A lot of times people do all this work right here, and they never write their answer. Because the question is, what's the equation for f of x? F of x equals negative 2x plus 1. People just leave this as their answer, and that doesn't answer the question, so you'd be totally wrong. Okay, so next up it says, list the quadrants through which the graph of f of x does not pass. So we've got the function, right? We've got that the function equals negative 2x plus 1. So let's take a visual right here. Now, you don't actually have to graph this. You can probably figure it out just by thinking about it. But look, the y-intercept is 1, and then the slope is negative 2, so you would go down 2 over 1. So this barely goes through quadrant number 1 right here. It's going to pass right through there. It goes through quadrant 2 quite a bit, and quadrant 4. It doesn't pass through quadrant 3 at all. So list the quadrants through which the graph does not pass. The answer would just be 3. All right. Now, next question says, what is the x-intercept of f of x? Well, check this out. Our graph is going to go right here. This is what our line is going to look like. Where the graph crosses the x-axis is your x-intercept. We can't approximate. We have to find out exactly. And the fact that we need to use is that for all x-intercepts, the y-coordinate will be 0. Always and forever, amen. So this point right here is going to be a number, comma, 0. Y will be 0. So I have to replace this with 0 right here. Do you see? And then just solve for x, and you're going to get positive 1/2. So the coordinate, because the x-intercept is a coordinate, it's 1/2, comma, 0. Right? So the x-intercept is 1/2, comma, 0. Boom, done. All right, now, trickiest one. But before we move on, let me reiterate. What about this has been tricky? What was accessible the whole time that you didn't recognize? What clues were here, and what knowledge did you possess that you failed to put together? Man, and what can you do so that in the future you do better making use of the things you know to answer questions? And that's really the whole purpose right here, right? The purpose of learning math isn't so you can get the answer right. The purpose of learning math is so that you can learn how to learn, so you can learn how to make use of what you know, so you can learn to be a problem solver. Last question. Another function, g of x, is perpendicular to f of x, and it passes through the point 6, negative 9. What is the equation of g of x? That's what we have to answer right here. Okay, well, so g of x is going to be linear. Perpendicular, right? So it's going to be linear as well. It means it's going to have a slope. Dang. So it's going to be same as y equals mx plus b once again. Now, we can figure out that the slope for this one's going to be 1/2. And the reason I know the slope for is 1/2 is because it tells me that it's perpendicular. If you forget, you could type into, your good old friend G-O-O-G-L-E. Tell me about the slopes of perpendicular lines. It's going to tell you right here. Slopes of perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals, opposite reciprocals. So if I had a slope of -2, the opposite of -2 is +2. Take the reciprocal of +2, you get 1/2. Dang, done. Boom, right there. Okay, so now, to find the equation, we have to find the y-intercept. We need to figure out what this number is right here. I think the easiest way to do that is plug in your x and your y values. You're going to put a 6. You're going to put a -9 over there, because that's what y is, and you simplify it. Half of 6 is 3, right? 3 plus what is -9? Oh, man, -12. So your answer is 1/2 x minus 12. Once again, what was here the whole time? What were the clues that were there the whole time that you did not make use of? What mathematical facts were used in this entire problem that you didn't know? Did you learn any math facts at all? If the answer to that's no, well, that means that you're failing to use the things you know to answer questions, and that's a bit of a problem, right? If you have all the pieces to the puzzle and you can't put it together, then that's a problem. That's frustrating. In real life, that's frustrating. How do you figure out how to answer difficult questions? How do you use what you know to figure out something that you don't know? Man, that is the purpose of school, being able to learn how to do that. Hope it's been helpful and useful. I'll talk to you guys soon.